Okay, thank you, everyone. We're going to get going. I'm Jamie Court, and I'm president of Consumer Watchdog, and I'm here with Lisa Tucker from Consumer Watchdog and some very courageous ratepayers who've been overbilled and are still wrestling with DWP as of this morning, hasn't been an hour ago. And we're here because the ratepayers of this city have suffered so much at the hands of the Department of Water and Power, and recently, Tuesday, there was a new settlement filed in this case. Actually, I think it was Tuesday night, that purports to take care of the ratepayers' problems. And we're here today to say there's a long way to go before the ratepayers of the city are going to be made whole and going to be made happy, and DWP is going to be accountable. I want the ratepayers to talk about their experience, but first I just want to give you some brief observations on this new settlement agreement, which a judge has twice rejected. This is the third time. This is the third strike for the city. And some of the concerns Consumer Watchdog has raised with this agreement around back billing issues and around releases of legal rights for people who've been back billed for very large bills as a condition of the settlement have been addressed. So there are some slight gains from the last revision. But this is still a very bad settlement. It's a very bad settlement because the claims process is extraordinarily confusing, and DWP customer service has control over it. The real problem we have now is that the mayor and the city attorney, through this agreement, which they refuse to stop, are not recognizing that DWP is not capable of auditing its own accounts, of determining what ratepayers owe, and ratepayers have wrestled with this customer service Goliath and gotten no relief. And yet, this settlement puts the power with the DWP bureaucracy. Very little help to the tens of thousands of ratepayers, if not more, who've been impacted. In fact, there are 1.6 million ratepayers who they say are impacted by this. We know tens of thousands have been overcharged $44 million. And the DWP knows that because they know they've overcharged people, and as of today, they're not paying them back. They're waiting for the settlement to go through to issue refund checks that they could issue today. We've sent a letter to the mayor outlining some of the problems with this agreement. It's online at ConsumerWatchdog.org, and I wrote this in about 10 minutes after really digesting the settlement because I was so angry. And what makes me really angry, what the ugly part of this agreement really is there's so little opportunity for ratepayers to challenge the judgment of DWP about whether they're over refunds. There's so little opportunity for people who are told, no, they weren't overcharged. They just got a bill very late, to be able to make good on that bill or to be forgiven for a bill that came 2 years late. We think those back bills should be forgiven. If someone gets billed a year and a half late, and it's a $10,000 bill, what are they supposed to do? Pay $10,000? Well, DWP under this agreement says we'll give them 4 years to pay. What they're not told is they have to come up with a 30 to 40% deposit on a very large bill before they can get into an installment plan. And what DWP is doing today, and what it will be allowed to do under this agreement, is use the threat of disconnection as a threat to get people into these payment plans and to fork over money that they may not even know. I want to remind people, today, the ratepayers here and other ratepayers who have been overbilled, $44 million, are paying installments to make good on bills that they shouldn't even be paying. And when you go to the terms of the agreement, and I'll show you, this is one bill that's up here, by the way, that you're just seeing. Go back one, Evan, to the bill. Go back. This is one person who you're going to hear from, Christina, who she's got a $29,000 bill. Her bills used to be $250 a month. And this morning, we were on the phone with DWP, and they told her she really owed this or she was going to be disconnected. This morning. So what does the agreement do for Christina? Let's go back. You'll hear from Christina to this first document, which is the claims form. I just want to show you how confusing this is. This is what people who, if the DWP says they are owed or don't owe, they have to submit a claims form if they want anything other than what DWP says. And look at this claims form. This is really confusing. Stop. Keep going. I want to show you all these different classes. Keep going, Evan, to the bottom. This is right there. This is almost incomprehensible. Part of a tiered billing subclass, the trend estimate subclass, a closed account with a credit balance, a solar customer, a late payment charge, estimates. You have to fill out these forms. Go to the bottom, Evan. all the way to the bottom, where it's highlighted, keep going. And you have to do it under penalty of perjury. Look at the bottom of this form, right here. That is unheard of in a claim settlement. I mean, this is no little thing. You think consumers are gonna understand this form they get in the mail and file something under penalty of perjury, like they're the criminals, when they've been misbilled? This is to discourage people. This is emblematic of everything that's going on, that's wrong in this settlement, to keep people having to keep them having barriers to getting money that they're owed and understanding what is going on if DWP doesn't tell them. What this settlement is all about is giving DWP the power to determine, keep going, Evan, what it wants to, this is right out of the settlement agreement from Tuesday. Keep going to the next page, right over here. All right, now this is emblematic of this settlement. In all the provisions of the settlement, stop. The operative language is DWP shall refund 100% of the damages that the claims processing unit at DWP determines DWP caused. Let me say this again. What are consumers getting out of this agreement? They're getting the right for DWP to give them 100% of what DWP thinks it harmed them by. In other words, DWP stole these people's money. And this settlement is letting DWP determine how much they should return, 100% of what they think they stole. Now, they stole in the first place for a reason. They're incompetent. They're corrupt. It wasn't just a computer system. But now DWP, in all this operative language, has total control to refund 100% of what it determines it took. Now keep going, Evan, on this. This isn't just in this form. It's throughout this agreement you will see this language. It's almost Orwellian. Keep going to this next yellow line up here. Keep it. Again, the parties agree that DWP shall refund, 100% of the amount that DWP damaged or overcharged any member as determined by the claims processing unit at DWP. So these people call and say, hey, like we did this morning, DWP says, yo, sorry, we're going to disconnect you. What's your options? Well, this is what we said. You can talk to a field investigator. There is an opportunity to go to a judge and a special master. But believe me, this judge is not going to be hearing from millions of people, from 1.6 million people, 1.6 million people, or tens of thousands of people. That is the call of last resort. And they're going to make sure that the court doesn't get inundated with these requests, and that the court isn't going to, people aren't even really know that court is an option. It's really up to DWP. Now move to the last part. Keep going on this agreement. I want to show you something that's really frustrating. This is probably the most outrageous provision of this agreement right now, and this is something that I don't think the mayor will allow to go forward. This is the timing of the agreement. Pre-identified non-claims made subclass members, these are people who owed refunds, shall be paid out no later than 7 months following the effective date of the agreement. Now, under the best case scenario, the effective date of this agreement is a long way down the road. There is a timeline attached to the letter we sent to the mayor. The effective date of this agreement is going to be like August 21st, 2017. And 7 months of that, from that, is March of 2017. So April 21st, 2016 is the effective date if there are no objections or appeals, which are almost certain to be. That's the most optimistic date. March 2017 is when ratepayers have to get their money back from DWP. These are ratepayers who are getting refunds or credits, meaning people who are paying installments now for bills that they don't really owe aren't going to get their money back, or are guaranteed to get their money back under the best case scenario till March of 2017. That is outrageous. They should get their money back tomorrow, with or without a settlement. If DWP overcharged people and they know it, they should get a refund. The city is holding up those refunds to get this settlement approved, and then saying in the settlement, ratepayers won't get paid for a year and a half. Ratepayers who've already paid DWP too much and are paying that installment basis under the threat of disconnection. Every time a ratepayer calls, that disconnection notice is hanging over their heads. That is truly outrageous. Now, the claims made period, if we go to the next slide, which is the timeline, Evan, this is the last slide. Make this whole thing appear on the screen, no? Timeline. Oh, well. We could do this first, but let's go to the timeline first. Okay, go to the timeline. Just put that last page up there in its entirety if you can. Shrink it. Okay. So this timeline will tell you exactly when people get paid. The whole thing, that's not the whole thing. Move it over this way.
That's the best I can do.
There it is. Why? There we go. Okay, let's go down here. Down. Okay, so this is the effective date in 2017 of settlement. This is when March 2017 claimants get paid. Yet the attorneys in this case will get paid $13 million if the judge approves it, but the city has agreed to pay it on June 29th. Move down just a little this way so I can see the last year of 2016. The attorneys, under a quick pay provision from Cleveland, who settled this case on the cheap, are getting $13 million if the judge awards it on June 29th of 2016 under the best case scenario, and ratepayers aren't getting paid till March of 2017. Usually, you wait till after a date, the effective date of a settlement, which would be August 21st, to pay attorneys, and after all objections and appeals are done to pay attorneys. And the reason is, if the objections or the appeals succeed, the attorneys owe the money back. In this case, there's no provision to get the money back from the attorneys that's explicit if they're paid the $13 million and a higher court says the settlement's bad. That is outrageous. This is what this settlement is all about. And I want to show you on this next, going back one page, Evan. No, go back this way. Yeah, see, stop right there. Defendants for the attorneys, go down a little bit so I can see the stop. Plaintiffs Jones will make an application to the court award of $13 million. Defendant will pay the amount in 7 business days after the settlement is finally approved by the court. Now go back to the timeline, Evan. You'll see that is where we arrive at this date, because right after final approval. The way this works is you have preliminary approval, which could be as early as December 21st. You have final approval, which is going to be around June. And within 7 days of final approval, before the settlement's effective, which is going to be another 60 days, when there's an opportunity for appeal, the attorneys get paid. These attorneys should not get their money before ratepayers. Every ratepayer should get their money, their refund, their credit, their claims process, before any attorney earns a dime. That tells you everything about this deal. This deal is for the DWP to have control over what it pays people. This deal is for the attorneys to get paid and run away before there's even an objection or appeal. This is not about delivering money to ratepayers soon. There should be a line in the settlement when a ratepayer refund is known by the DWP. It has to be paid within 7 days or 10 days of that refund being known. Right now, the DWP alleges it knows the refund's owed to consumer. That's how it knows the settlement is valued at $44 million. It's not paying them, and under this agreement, it doesn't have to pay people until March of 2017. So, the situation we're in that is really dire and really frustrating is that we have all these ratepayers who have been told they've gotten bad bills because of their reading the media and they're understanding there's a settlement. And they call DWP, and DWP says, no, your bill is right. You owe $29,000. Go back to that original bill. You only used to pay 250 months for your electricity and water, but somehow it added up to $29,000 over a 2-year period when we weren't billing you frequently. And DWP insists of its right to disconnect people. It says, if you want to take care of this bill, you got to come up with 30 to 40% and go on an installment plan. That is $6,000. What happens then? How do you come up with $6,000? If you do, then you get alleviated of your right to not to be disconnected. What does this settlement do for this person? This settlement says, by March 2017, we'll correct your bill and refund what you want. That's a garbage settlement. We don't need a settlement. We don't need a lawsuit. We need DWP to pay people back what they're owed. Why do we even have a settlement? If the value of it is giving a year and a half to DWP to do something it should do tomorrow because it ripped people off. It should pay that back. I urge the mayor to take this seriously. The mayor refused to meet with these ratepayers. We wrote a letter weeks ago asking him to be here now, explaining how this is just, and you know why he's not here? Either he's not paying attention and doesn't think he has to be, or he can't. Because how could you believe a settlement like this is reasonable? I mean, when attorneys are getting paid this summer of June 6, 2016, $13 million for sure, and ratepayers have to wait till March of 2017 to be guaranteed to get a refund or a credit that should be known today, That's not a fair settlement. It's just not fair. So I'm gonna let first Christina Lima talk, L-I-M, Cristiani Lima, talk about this bill that she received for $29,000, and she had an experience this morning on the phone with DWP, so she can tell you all about it in real time. So, thanks for coming.
Christiani, will you spell your first and your last name, please?
Christianny.
And your last name?
Lima, Lima.
Thank you.
Yes, so my name is Cristiane Lima. I have a martial arts school located in the Harbor City area, and I've been dealing with LA DWP since February 2014 with this big bill. What's happened, I've been in that same location since 2011, and I didn't change anything on my place. I actually don't even turn the air conditioner on in my space over there because we have like 3 doors. It's a really large place, but we have a lot of windows. So lights are on only around 5 o'clock. So my bill, my average bill is about $250. I have a bill here, you can see it's March 2013. Actually, this one is $213.90. So I've been having this average bill for almost 3 years. When in February 2014, I got a bill with some corrections because I was not billing for about 3 months for over $6,000, $6,242.75. That day, I actually wrote out here, I called on February 21st, 2014 to talk about this. And they advised me that was some issues with the computer and this would be correct. I was afraid because $6,000 was close to my tax season, so I was like, I have to pay this amount. I was like, no, don't worry about. Okay. As a matter of fact, when I called, waiting time was about 3 hours to talk to someone. And if you get disconnected, you have to call again. So passing the months, nothing was done. I was calling, waiting, so I decided to go to Santa Monica office at the time. And that's when they start putting extensions. And they advised me, you don't have to pay because these will be fixed. Wait until the correct amount. Sometimes I was making small payments, but anyway, short story. This morning I called because I received the bill. Now my bill is actually the one on the screen, close to $30,000. They made a correction of, if you can see on the top, of $71.86. So that's my correction for one of my bills. So they say now my new charge is actually $1,309.09. And they advised me that this is my correct bill. So I don't understand how in 3 years my bill used to be $250 and now I pay my average bill is $1,300 and I didn't change anything on my business. So this is affecting my business life, my students' life, my personal life because I have to go to DWP once a month or sometimes twice a month to see what's going on. I called this morning and they gave me this great arrangement for me to don't get disconnected. They told me I can pay 20% tomorrow or today, I guess, and then in 6 months I make the rest of payment. So I have to pay $6,000 and installments of $4,000, and I guess my bill is going to still be $1,300 a month. So it's hopeless. I don't know for who I should talk to. I can see that it's a lot of. I think I have to become a lawyer. That's probably the best thing for me. Don't be an instructor anymore because I can make $13 million if I do a settlement like that. So I really don't know. And I know some people are not aware of that because I gave an interview a week ago and one of my students approached me and she had no idea about this. So I think now it's been more exposing to the media what's going on, but a lot of people don't even know about the lawsuit. They don't know about that.
I have a quick question. You said you're in Harbor City. Is this bill for a business or is it for your home?
It's a business.
It is
That's my business. And businesses, they're billing every month.
They bill every month?
Yes.
But you got the $6,000 bill after not getting a bill for what, 3 months you said?
I think it was 2 months. I have
2 or 3 months?
2 or 3 months. Yes.
But prior to that you were getting a monthly bill for $200 and something.
Yes, about $250.
Thank you.
And also, what did they tell you? Why don't you tell them about how they said they made an error?
Oh yes, so they told me, because I spoke later, she seems a little confused on the phone, and she told me my case was closed, there was a field investigation, and I should call this number, that you cannot go in the office, you have to call, and they decide that my bill is correct and I have to pay that amount. I mentioned about my meter because my meter was changed about a year ago, and which took almost a year for them to correct. They thought the problem was the meter, and they say everything is reading correct. So that's what they said. I have to pay, and if I want any further information, I have to call the investigator, which I'm gonna call later on today. And I asked for documentation. They said it's only the investigator can give me. So you have no clue what's going on. So even like you, LADWP has completely power. We are the consumer, but look like we are the guilt people on that. That's the funny thing. So we have our rights, but you have no rights.
And they told you up until today that it was their fault and the bill wasn't correct.
Yes, because they gave me the extension, everything. Now she said over the phone that no, my case was not the computer or whatever. No, it's whatever it is. So it's just confused. And then when I asked her for a report, she cannot give me a report because she's not an investigator. She said that was correct, but now she cannot say that's correct. So it's just confusing.
I'm sorry, how long have you been having this issue again? Since
It was
2013?
2 years. February 2014. So it'll be 2 years now in February.
Okay, so what are they telling you owe them now? Is it that $29,000?
That's my view right about
That's
that.
As of this morning,
Mhm.
we were on the phone.
Yes.
I was on the phone with her.
And that the new charges are what, $1,300 for what
Yes.
time? For what period of time?
That's 1 month. We used to be 250. Now I'm have an increase for over 500%.
So it's 29,000, but there's a mistake there, according to them.
According to them,
No.
I guess the bill before they correct for. Can you see the $71? Yeah, the corrections. I don't know, page 3. Let's see what corrections they made.
Did the bill just increasingly get bigger and bigger over time? Because you said you got the first one in a few months. You didn't get a bill for a few months, and it went up to $6,000, and you've been dealing with this since February of 2014. Over the course of 2 years, it ended up being that much money.
Yes.
Okay.
They told you over the course of 2 years that there was a mistake and they were
Yes, they
investigating, which
told
is
me
why
that.
you didn't pay, right? They told you not to pay.
Yes, they told me not to pay it. They keep giving me extension. I think in this bill doesn't show, but if I log in, there is an extension to December 30 if I log in on the website. This is the correction on page 3. They say the correction bill from September 2015 to October 2015. So it was a mistake of $71. So that's
Right, but when you first called them, when you first saw that bill of $6,000 in February of 2014, that's when because I think when you were just telling us your story,
Yes.
that they had told you not to worry about it, that there
Exactly.
was an issue.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's what they told me. That's why, if they knew it was a issue, why they keep giving me extensions? And every time I actually, instead of call, I start going to the Santa Monica office because it's close to me. Actually, the people over there, they're very nice, very slow on the customer service, but they're very nice, but they really don't know what's going on. So they type it on, don't worry about. They keep giving me extension for 2 months, so I'm sure that's going to be time enough to just be fix it, and then after a month, but never was fixed. And today, I called, and they told me, that's it, you have, on November 10, I believe that was the day they told me, November 10, there was a finalized investigation, and your bill is correct.
And that was the first you've heard of it.
That's the first time I heard it, and I said, well, there is no letter or anything. And she said, oh, you should receive a letter. But I actually logged in this morning to get some paperwork, and I see all my letters, all my bills over there, and there was no document on that. And today is, what is today, November 20th. So in 10 days, there is no record of that.
Since the point of when they came out to change your meter, the people that came out to change your meter, did you speak to them as
Yes.
far as to find out if they knew what was wrong?
Yes, they didn't know anything, and they told me the meter, they are not, their job is just change the meter because they said my meter was broke. I was like, okay. And they said the meter is supposed to go to a lab for investigate or anything, and I said, can I have a report to that? I was like, oh, I have to call. Never heard about, never get any letter, nothing about. They say my meter was old because it was like in the maximum demand. I was like, okay. But now my demand, actually, I have the bills here. It used to be 0.02. And was all the way to 2.0. By the way, I don't know how to do these calculations. I don't work. I'm not a technician on that. So, this is like another language for me. But I know my meter is 0.2. So whatever the new meter, it's higher anyway. And even if everything is off in my business, I turn it off, everything. I have pictures of my meter. Unfortunately, I didn't bring it. I gave the pictures to the office. They have all my records, but nobody ever contacted me for anything.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
not so much.
No, it's important, and I gotta tell you, this is a huge problem here, because I have no doubt, given her usage, that this is not a real bill for $29,000, even though they're insisting on it. But what if it were? And they told her not to pay for 2 years, that it was their mistake. And now she has a $29,000 bill. That's their fault for saying they have a problem. Now, I know based on a $250 a month usage, you can't get to $29,000 if it's not a hell of a lot of years. It have to be 10 years. But my point is, for people who've been back billed and overcharged, that they should get their money quick. For people who've been back billed and it's a legitimate bill, but they haven't paid because they weren't billed for 7 or 8 months, or they were told not to pay because they thought it was part of the scandal, should they have to come up with $10,000 out of their own pocket? Or should DWP go after the computer program people who created the problem? Who has $10,000 laying around? So this settlement doesn't help either the people who are going to get refunds, because they should be getting them now, not in 2017, or the people who have to pay back bills because they still have to come up with a huge deposit, even if they're paying over 4 years. They got to come up with, as of this morning, they were asking initially for 30 to 40%, and they dropped it to 20% because the bill's $30,000. That's the best you could do. $6,000 is a down payment. Okay, I'm going to bring on Brad Fagerstrom and Mary Fagerstrom, and Brad is a Vietnam vet and a diehard who's one of the few people who's following this so closely. He downloaded the settlement before I did. So, and there it is.
That's Wednesday night, that there's 429 pages.
Can you please say and spell your name, please?
Bradley and Mary Fagerstrom, F as in Frank, Agerstrom. I don't know how to explain. This settlement does absolutely nothing for consumers. It just goes on and on. It's so frustrating.
Why don't you talk about your story?
Our story is we have, luckily, because now they've cut back, you can only go back 1 year. I had my back bills all the way to 2011, and all of a sudden they said estimates, then they came back and took one bill, and I have them comparable periods. A $40.35 bill went to over $400 from the previous year, and since then it's back at the $40. They came out. The guy puts his little suit on. He crawls under my house looking for leaks. It's absolutely clean under there. There's nothing. Not only no leaks, it's clean. 2 trees have died. I quit watering in the spring of 2013, and now they checked the pressure, and they said everything's okay. And I said, here, this is let me get out. To show this is software errors. Numbers there should be 32. It's all of a sudden it's 28.06452. Their software is bad, and here's what, they threaten this. I'm a disabled vet. My wife is a type 1 diabetic for 37 years, and I got my 92-year-old mother-in-law living with us. I've got all the disconnect notices, and we've dealt with them, trying to get them to understand, and they say, but your pressure's okay. It's a software issue. How do I know it's a software issue? Because the DWP is suing Price Waterhouse for bad software. Well, then my pressure's okay. Why aren't you suing? Is Price Waterhouse adjusting the pressure of the water into my property? No, they won't listen. It is so frustrating. It's Kafkaesque. When you try and deal with them in reaching a solution, and they're going to now determine whether their judgment was correct. So if I want a refund, it's going to be, they'll determine if they did the right job, and they'll determine when, if, and how much, and it's going to be years out. It's crazy. And by the way, someone who supposedly represents my interest will get paid about a year ahead of me. I've been involved in automobile accidents and other cases. The client, the attorney never gets paid ahead of the client. There's the proceeds that are to go to the client, and then the attorney gets his share, whatever they agreed upon in their contract. And in this case, this guy's gonna come into town and just a matter of 9 months later is gonna walk out with 13 million, and he's not sticking around to solve this or fix this or anything else, because the exact same problem will still exist, and that is the DWP will make the decision on the money, when, how, if they did a right job or not. And they didn't, and they won't, it's your Price Waterhouse suit, there's the bad software, and they're continuing with this and have threatened us. So I'm in a payment plan, and Mr. Landskroner was so generous, he even states in this thing, where he's created a new settlement term. He feels very proud of himself. A new settlement term, and they're going to extend the payments by 1 year. No, you still owe the money. We're gonna extend it 1 year, like I don't owe the money. We don't owe the money. We've got the proof for it, but they're not gonna listen, but they haven't done any, they're still suing Price Waterhouse.
Why don't you explain why you went into the installment plans in the first place, and also
Well, we went
about
into the
Mary's
installment plan. We've been working with them since last summer. I started last summer when
Well,
they
why
first.
did you do it if you knew that it wasn't an accurate bill? Why did you?
Oh, we kept working with them, and they kept getting notices, disconnect notices, and we were trying to put it off. And finally, my wife was scared, and my mother-in-law, and you know, great, I'm correct, but I have no water. What am I going to do? Not pay the bill, have no water, and then try and come back? 2017, and maybe I'll get some of my money back, and maybe they'll turn the water back on. It's absolutely crazy. We have no other choice. They literally hold a gun to your head about that, and they try and prey on seniors and others. So what they're doing is wrong. What the city is doing is wrong, and what the mayor's office is doing is wrong. And so it's very frustrating, and trying to keep going forward with this. But it's not right. I'm an old guy, and my family, we do things right. We've had public servants in our family, and this is not right. They're not public servants. They're not servicing anybody out there, and too many people have been intimidated into paying. And one guy is going to slip into town, grab 13 million, and he's long gone, and the mess will not have changed one iota.
Well, will you share why Mary broke her arm? Because, or maybe Mary shares it, but.
Yes, well, thank you to the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. We don't water the grass, so consequently there's dirt there. And I was watering something, and the water got mixed in with the dirt, and I slipped, and I fractured, dislocated, and crushed my elbow 8 weeks ago. And aside from trying to deal with all this is just hardly more than I can deal with. And nobody at the DWP would care, but because we didn't want to pay the bill because it's too expensive, and that's what happened.
She was just trying to save, we've already lost trees we've had to cut down, and she was trying to save a rose bush that was in the front. And, you know, this is they've got to be stopped, and they've got to get some independent outside people. You don't sentence somebody to jail, and then the prisoner determines when he goes to jail, for how long he goes to jail, what his hours are, and when he'll be back, if he goes out every day on leave or whatever. And that's what the DWP is going to, at the end of this, when Landskroner runs off with his money, we are in no different position than we are now, dealing with the same people who said they may, in fact, when they told her that her bill was correct, you have to call, if you want to appeal it, you have to call back to the very person who said the bill was correct and tell him why he's wrong. And they have all the information. They don't give you anything, and they won't accept from you proof that they made a mistake.
Let me add one thing to that. I'll just that the only levels of review which is touted by the people putting forth this settlement, Landskroner is the attorney from Cleveland, is an outside monitor. There's a guy named Paul Bender who is supposed to make sure that DWP is giving the correct amounts. One person who is the former director of the Cleveland DWP. Now, how can the head of the Cleveland DWP really represent consumers against the LA DWP. Something tells me he's a little more partial to Cleveland DWP. He's not going to be talking to 10,000 people. The other person is a special master on the case, a woman named Barkovich, who ran the California Power Authority. I think she still does, which was the agency set up during electricity deregulation to sell power to the state. Failed pretty quickly, but she stuck around whatever limited business it has. Again, not a pro-consumer credential, not a ratepayer advocate. The city's ratepayer advocate is not to be found. So who's going to represent consumers? The judge is going to get a lot of calls. I'm sure he could do it, but I think he's pretty busy. So I think what we're asking for Mayor Garcetti is that he just open his eyes, talk to these people, look at this settlement, read this letter, and take charge of this. And that's on December 21st when this is going to be preliminarily approved. If on December 21st, if you go back to the timeline, Evan, this deal is preliminarily approved, that sets all these other timelines in motion. There's no reason the mayor can't order DWP without a lawsuit settlement to pay people back what they should get now. That's no different than this settlement, except they would then have to wait under the settlement. DWP has no obligation to do it until 2017. There is a claims process, which I think that does deal with claims that maybe DWP can't figure out. But those claims forms are really complicated and not simplified, and we need someone other than the customer service agents at DWP to explain this to the public, because it's incomprehensible. We were on the phone this morning with DWP, and it was like, really, it was like talking to a wall. So we'll take questions, but I don't think this is an ordinary situation that the mayor can look away from. We're going to send him the tape of this press conference along with the letter, and I hope he'll watch it and listen to these folks' stories. And we're going to ask him again to come meet and discuss this with us and them, because it's not fair. And this is ultimately going to be on his hands. No one would think this is a fair settlement if they weren't involved in getting paid by it. And that's what's happening with the attorneys for the plaintiffs. That's what's happening with DWP, who gets a lot more control over this than they should. But the ratepayers aren't going to get a fair share.
My understanding is that folks like Christiani, with regard to back billing, will, under this revised settlement, have the option of filing suit and taking on the DWP
Well,
with regard to that. So I just want a
actually,
response to that.
she won't, because I'm 99.9% sure she's going to get a refund. The people who would still retain their rights are the people who don't get refunds, but they still have to find a lawyer. They could also go through the claims process, but who's going to understand that they can do that through that form? The people who get refunds are giving up their right to sue, but they're not guaranteed to get the refunds till 2017. The people who have these back bills where they don't include an overcharge, they've been billed late or wrongly, or delayed, but their bill according to DWP is right, they can go find an attorney and do this all over again. Now, are they really going to be able to do that? I guess it's better than not having that right, and maybe someone will file that case. But the city charter gives the DWP the ability to try to collect those back bills. What I would say to the mayor is, it's unfair. And the DWP is going to collect from PricewaterhouseCoopers. How much are the people who didn't get billed for years and had to come up with a big amount, even if it was accurate? How much are they going to get out of that DWP settlement? Again, the case against PricewaterhouseCoopers. I mean, I think that the DWP owes it to forgive the back bills that were what they say is correct, as well as to refund people quickly. Under this settlement, they're owed everything. They just they can do it for 4 years in installments. That's a concession, but the system that DWP uses requires a very big deposit, and this lawsuit doesn't change that. The settlement, if it really wanted to give people the right to pay it off, would say there doesn't have to be a deposit initially. It could be spread out in equal payments, and they could spread it out over a longer period of time. How do you pay? I mean, she doesn't owe $29,000, but how would you pay a $29,000 bill over 4 years?
Thank you.
Do we know exactly about how many consumers there are?
We know the class takes in 1.6 million DWP customers. Allegedly, there are tens of thousands of consumers who are due to get refunds and credits. And then there's a bunch of people who have other types of claims, like they were in the wrong tier. Now, how would they know that, right? But the claims form lets them file a claim if they're willing to do it under penalty of perjury after they understand their bill, which is another part of the problem. There are people who are solar customers and didn't get the right credit. There's a whole bunch of people who also can file these claims forms. The people who are supposed to get refunds or credits are supposed to, supposed to automatically be debited. Only under the settlement, it doesn't have to happen until as early as March 2017, or if there's objections and appeals, which are likely to be whenever those are resolved. The lawsuit actually is a hurdle to people getting paid back money. I think DWP just needs to give the money back and have a process to do it. I don't know what value the lawsuit is to anybody in this class if all DWP has to do is give back 100% of what they stole. I mean, I keep saying, hearing from the other side, the city, this is a great deal because people get 100% of the dollar. You took 100% of the dollar. You're the city of Los Angeles. You're not going to give it back now? I mean, these people were robbed.
And they don't even want to give you credits.
They should pay it back with
They don't want to
interest.
pay you back, they want to credit you for the future. You've overpaid, and how we're going to pay you back is we're going to credit it to your future bill. I don't want to pay my bill 8 years from now today.
And all these people like Brad isn't paying in installments. This money is out of his pocket. This is money he could be doing something else with, and he's going to get it back if he waits around. Not a good deal. And unfortunately, the people close to this case aren't thinking of this from the point of practical view of ratepayers who are now in these installment plans and what it means to wait so long.
Is Christiane on an installment plan?
No, because until this morning for the last 2 years, she was told there was an error, and we got on the phone an hour ago, and she was told, no, it wasn't the software, no, it wasn't the meter that we replaced. You really owe $29,000, even though you used to pay $250 a month. So that's my point. They told her she wasn't part of this, and that's the problem. It's the DWP customer service, the DWP bureaucracy, which retains control over all of this. Again, DWP pays 100% of what DWP says it owes. Well, DWP stole 100% of what it thought it could steal. I don't think, there's no goodwill here. There's no reason to trust DWP. And this settlement, while it may conform to some legal checklists that go to class action settlements, which are a mess anyway, it's not going to help the ratepayers. And it may not even conform to those. The judge may throw this out. I can't imagine the judge is going to let attorneys get paid, in the summer of 2016 when ratepayers can't get their payments or aren't guaranteed to get their payments till March of 2017 earliest. There's no reason these lawyers should get paid before ratepayers are guaranteed their payments, which means after appeals or objections or before appeals. But my point is, forget the lawsuit. Why do you need a lawsuit? You need the DWP to do what it's supposed to do. If any company rips you off, you don't think they can give you a refund? If American Express rips me off and I call them, they're going to refund me. Why isn't the LA DWP doing that right now if they know there are people who've been ripped off? Now, either they don't know, which is not what they told the court because they said there's $44 million in overcharges, or they're just not being honest. Let me see if I can get a call from line. I'm open line.
The participant's lines are unmuted.
Okay, if anybody on the call wants to ask a question, they can. Anybody on the conference line want to ask a question? Okay. Anybody else in the room? Okay. Thank you all. But